Shalom Bracha once again, and welcome to the Mitzvah of the Week. I'm Rabbi Ikey Tawil, and this is a division of Parasha Plus on Parasha Study and Tanakh Study. We close out Sefer Bereshit from a mitzvah standpoint. Again, we only had 3 mitzvot in the entire Sefer officially from the Torah. And this week, I wanted to just take a different route and just something more emotional that's in the parasha, where we see that all of the brothers are going to be receiving blessings. The tribes of Israel are going to be set. And as you see in the map that's here, just in the opening, that's really where we're headed. We're headed into Eretz Israel as the goal. And, it's going to take through Shemot, the trials and tribulations in the Midbar, and becoming a nation. But really the seeds are planted here with the blessings of Yaakov. And it's an inheritance of such. And that's what got me thinking, being that there's no official mitzvah in this week's parasha. But I think the theme of Vayhi is now our lives are going to change with the blessings and the inheritance that Yaakov is giving over to his sons, and the baton that Yosef is going to be passing to the nation to hopefully stay in Goshen and do the right thing. That these are really the seeds of our nation and who we are as Bnei Israel. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the mitzvah of inheritance, passing things down from father to son. And who gets the inheritance? What is the concept of inheritance? And a lot of very interesting halachot. Again, small disclaimer, the laws of inheritance are very complicated. So again, this is just to give you a basic knowledge. Please, if a person is making their will and has certain questions, please consult your local rabbi, your local posek. So let's get started. We see this is a mitzvah in Sefer HaChinuch, mitzvah Taf, mitzvah 400. And the actual mitzvah is found in Bamidbar, Kav Zayin, Het Tet, and Yir Aleph. And we see that if we read the pasuk Ki Amut, Uben En Lo, when a person passes away, and let's say he didn't have a son, V'Habartam Et Nachalato Lebito, and you pass it on to the daughter, etc., etc. We see that it's actually a command in the Torah. And in pasuk Yir Aleph, it says V'Hayeta Lebnei Yisrael Chukat Olam. This is going to be a mitzvah that stands for all time, that a person must pass on their inheritance to their children. So what is this mitzvah all about? So first let's take a look at Sefer HaChinuch on the next 2 slides, which it tells us the overall concept. And then we'll go and go a little bit deeper into the Rambam as well. So Sefer HaChinuch says, Aval hodi'aynu shezechut hayoresh keshura v'nechse morisho. We understand that the Torah is telling us that the rights of the heirs are intertwined with the property of the deceased. And what that is showing here, what Sefer HaChinuch is trying to show us, is that the property has an unbroken line, an unbroken chain. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us parnasa, and gives us sustenance and possessions in this world. Those possessions, they stay in our lineage for all time. How does that come off? Well, now we're trying to, let's unpack it and see what that's supposed to mean for us. Sefer HaChinuch continues in the next slide and quotes Bava Batra, Daf Kof Tet Vav Amud Bet, and says that our rabbis, Rabotenu Zichronam B'Bracha, Yikar'u lezechut ha'chazaka sheyesh leyoresh b'nechse morisho b'lashon mishmush. The way that the rabbis talked to us and spoke about the concept of the actual hafatzim, the properties that are left to the next generation, is called mishmush. Literally, mishmush means to touch. It's touching each other. They have a physical relationship. There's almost like a bond. And what that means is kelomar, the Sefer HaChinuch says, shezechut hayoresh b'morish ki'ilu hagufim devukim ze bazeh. The zechut, the merit, the ownership of someone's property when they pass is actually connected. Davuk means stuck to, clinging to the bodies of each other. Shekol hayotze min ha'ehad nofel al hasheni. Whatever comes out from one, meaning the father, it automatically clings and sticks to the son. It rests one upon the other. It's almost as the property has always belonged to that person. The only thing that's changing is that the official ownership changes upon the death of the original owner. But the lineage means that the lineage of father and son shows that the possessions also pass through that lineage. So very nice. It's a very nice concept. We learned that it's called mishmush. It's as if the bodies are touching. It's as if they have the same rights. So what does this teach us in the shortish of the mitzvah? And it's really beautiful. I'll read it in English as here I have the Hebrew and the English on the slide. That Sefer HaChinuch says, it is from the root of the commandment that it is so that a person should reflect that the world is in the hand of the master that oversees all of his creatures. Everything belongs to Hashem, and he has given us gifts. And the Sefer HaChinuch continues, and his gift is blessed, that it stay forever with the one he gave it to. Meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not say, and this is sometimes a false sense of belief that we have in our in what's happening with our possessions and with our parnasah, is that we believe, you hear some people say, well, I worked hard for it, let my kids work hard. It doesn't belong to them. That doesn't seem to be the Jewish approach. The Jewish approach seems to say that Hashem gave you a gift while you were alive. But this gift never ends. It stays with you forever through your children. So to have real hakarat hatov, you have to give that gift over to your children. Now that doesn't mean that a person cannot give to shuls and schools hafuch, which we're encouraged. Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you that gift. There's nothing that endures more than that wealth going into the hands of, let's say, an institution that will teach all children for many years to come. But the point is that the wealth does not die with you. The wealth stays and endures forever, and it's an expression of that gift to show look at how Hashem gave me gifts. If someone says, I got more money than I know what to spend with in this lifetime, good, inshallah, because the whole point is that it should endure forever, the gifts that Hashem gives you. Really just beautiful. And again, it is not correct that the removal of his body should end the blessed gift of God. Beautiful words from the Sefer HaChinuch. Just because a person passes away does not mean that the gifts that Hashem gave to you end. It goes, hopefully, Lidore Dorot, which is the intention of all of our families. They should endure for generations and generations. We go to the Rambam now in Sefer HaMitzvot. This is the din of Nahalot, which is the inheritance, is Mitzvat Aseh Resh Mem Het. Romach, it's the last of the mitzvot aseh, so it's an easy way to remember it, 248. And here the Rambam gets into some of the details. Now I want to touch on some of the details and some of the common thoughts that we have when it comes to Yerusha, when it comes to inheritance, and also maybe some misinformation that hopefully the Rambam and the Aharonim can clear up. So the Rambam says, what is the essence of the mitzvah? Hi shehorenu b'dinei nahalot, vehu amru yitale ish ki yamut uben en lo, like we quoted, u'mikelal din zeh, belo safek, heyot habechor yoresh pi shenaim, shezeh mishpat b'mishpetei Yerushot. So he says that the Rambam just wants to highlight, and including in this mitzvah, is that the bechor, the eldest son, should get a double portion. Pisha. Now again, there's certain rules to what constitutes a bechor. Is it the oldest son, but there are 4 or 5 girls from beforehand? Is it that it has to be a firstborn son? There was, let's say, a son passed away, and now it's son number 2. Generally speaking, it's when a person has an oldest child that is a son. That is what constitutes a bechor. This type of person gets double portion from his parents' estate. So let's say there are 2 kids. One is the oldest is the boy, the youngest is the girl. They divide their estate not into 2, they divide it into 3, and the bechor gets 2 of the 3 portions. The Mishnah in Bava Batra, which has this, also states, and this Mishnah is key, on Daf Kof Kaf Vav, that's 126 Amud Bet, Matnitin, our Mishnah states, Haomer Ish Peloni, right? Let's say this person says, Beni Bechor lo yitol pi shenaim. He says, look, my firstborn doesn't take a double portion of the estate. Ish Peloni, right? Or so and so also says, Beni lo yirash im echav. Right? He's not going to get inheritance with the other brothers. Guy has 4 sons. These 3 are getting, and the other one's getting nothing. What does the Mishnah say? Lo amar kelum. In both of these cases, when somebody says, "Oh, my eldest is not going to get double," it's as if he said nothing. And if a person says, "No, I have 3 sons or 4 sons, this only 3 are getting, and not the other one," lo amar kelum. His stipulations mean nothing. As why? Why? Shehitna al ma shekatuv b'Torah. A person made a stipulation on what's written in the Torah, and it's automatically rendered invalid. As an example, no one can say, I vow, right? Again, as just an example, to never put on tefillin again. It doesn't make a difference. You're obligated from the Torah. There's nothing you could do. You can't opt out of that. So we'll now see, this is black on white Mishnah. You got to give your bechor twice, and you must give each and every one of your children a piece of the inheritance. So we'll see where a will comes in, and we'll see where some exceptions can be made, or how to make the exception, more importantly. The Mishnah continues and says, and in regards to, let's say, hamechalek nechasav. What does it mean, hamechalek nechasav? He's dividing out his estate. He's ready to die, or he knows the end is near. And what happens? Al piv, he does it orally. Again, so this is one of the things it's very important to write a will. Everybody should live till 120, but always writing down where you want some of your estate to go to. But in this case, the Mishnah says, let's say it's done orally. Riba le'ahad umi'et le'ahad. Let's say he says, look, I have 4 sons. I'm going to give 60% to this son, 30% to that one, and the other 2 are only getting 5%. And what happens? And he increased the portion to 1, and then, or he equated the portion of the firstborn to the other sons. He says, I'm giving everybody equally, right? But as an inheritance, right? He says, look, I don't want to give anybody else double. This is what double would come out to. I'm going to give more than that to the other people as well. Devarav kayamin. If his statements do stand, because he's not trying to undo anything that is in the Torah. And when he is at least giving, which I'm giving a little bit of it away, but he's at least giving every one of his children something. Right? But if he says that I'm giving this as an inheritance and not as a gift or something extra, lo amar kelum. So this Mishnah is telling us how to work around it. A person is able to say, I understand that I have to give this person the inheritance is this, and this is what I want to leave for them as a Yerusha. A person doesn't have to give their entire estate all at once. It's all as earmarked as Yerusha. A person, let's say, has $200,000. So he says $100,000 is going to be an inheritance. I'm giving my double portion to the Bechor of the $100,000, and then I'm giving $33,000 to the other son. Now he says, and on top of that, I'm giving this son a gift of 70 and this Bechor a gift of 30. And then what happens? Everybody ends up being equal. So that's a way that you ended up fulfilling the Torah, because of your base inheritance, you gave the Bechor a double portion, and everybody else you gave gifts. But if you now say, no, I'm giving this as this is their inheritance, again, the Mishnah says, Lo amar kilum. Ben betahila, ben ba'emsa, ben basof, mishum matana, dvarav kayamin. He says, but if a person does it, if he wrote it, whether in the beginning, middle, or end in his will, and is granting this to them as a gift, as a matana, devarav kayamin. So to summarize this slide, which is really key, you can give a base inheritance with the Bechor getting double portion. That's appropriate. That's what should happen. And as long as you're giving everybody, you can add to it as under the column of gifts. This is just a gift to my sons and my daughters, and I want to make sure that everybody, at the end of the day, you'll make the amount of the gift to make sure that everybody is equal. So again, the Mishnah teaches you how to do it. Here, seeing this in the Acharonim, this is from Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. So where is this siman? Where are these halachot in Shulchan Aruch? They're in Choshen Mishpat, simanim Resh Ayin Vav and Resh Peh Tet, 276 and 289. This is from Harav Yitzhak Yosef, and he gives this Kisur. He also quotes this in Yabia Omer Chelek Het and Tet, Chelek Het Siman Tet in Choshen Mishpat, and he says the following: Mutar le'adam, a person is allowed lichtov sava'ah. He can write a will. Ulha'avir et rov rechusho, and he could give majority of his wealth. Le'ahad mibanav, he could give it to one of the majority to one of his children. Now, what's the stipulation? Here he says, okay, let's say this is the guy that's learning in Kolel. He has a son that's learning, so this guy, maybe he needs more of the money. So, and he could give the rest to his other inheritors. All right, bari yesh la'akel. Matanat bari yesh la'akel. When he says that, and you're giving it as for sure going to happen, it's not a stipulation, and he is giving it to them, again, with a full heart, it's allowed. This is the key line. Sherashai adam la'asod b'shelo kol ma sheyirtzeh. And this was also in the Sefer HaChinuch, but I cut it out. It says that a person is allowed to give his money to anybody he wants. Again, but what's the stipulation? Kol shemishayer helek hagun minechasav lish'ar yorshim. He can give as much money as he wants to whoever he wants. He can give majority of his inheritance to the shul. He can give it to the school. He can give it to his friend. As long as the natural yorshim, the people who are in his family tree, his sons and his daughters, do in fact receive, it says, helek hagun, has to be respectable. Can't give them $1 and then the millions and the billions are going somewhere else. Inshallah, billions, right? It can't be that way. Person has to make sure you have to give something respectable to your children, and then you can give wherever you want after that. So again, you're allowed to. We saw, again, consult your rabbi, and many of the people who know how to make wills in the community also know the halachot. One of the more famous ones that we shared is how you give it as a gift. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch continues and says that, let's say, and this was an important slide that I wanted to put. Let's say there's an estranged son. They married a non-Jew, or let's say they became they're off the derech. They did something terrible to the father, and the father wants to cut them out of the will. Even Hamitzak Yosef says, do not do that. You're allowed to say that I will give, this says, mutar lo laha'abir et ha'nahala mehaben shu mehalel Shabbat v'over al isurei Torah. Let's say, God forbid, the guy is not a Sabbath observer. He doesn't follow any laws, any halachot. L'tobat ben ha'chacham shetorah ta'omanuto. And he's got another son that's a rabbi. He wants to give to that one, and the guy is feeling, he says, I want to cut that bad son out. He says, great musar, mikom makom ha'chacham einav berosho. The person should be very smart and calculate this. He should act in patience and never push away the person who is off the derech. He says, maybe there's hope. And he gives an idea. He says, no, you can put an inheritance clause with a t'nai. Leave that son his portion. B't'nai, a t'nai gamur. He says, with a condition that says that what you should do is make sure that the person knows when you do teshubah and when you come back, this belongs to you. I love you, but I want to make sure that you're following in the right way. Again, you could put any sort of stipulation there, make him wait for it, etc. But again, he says, do not push away sons or daughters that have wronged you, because there always might be hope, and you can actually put a condition until they fulfill certain things that you need to do. Rambam, which is what we'll try to close with, Rambam says in Mishneh Torah Halachot Nahalot Aleph and Gimal that he just wants to go through what are the order of Yorshim. So it says V'kol hakodem nahala yotzei yerecho kodmin. How does a person give inheritance? He gives inheritance through giving his progeny. So his children come first. Lefichach mishemet ben ish ben isha, whether a man dies or a woman dies and they want to give to their children. Im hiniach ben yoresh hakol. They have a child, the ben gets everything. Lo nimtza lo ben, if he doesn't have a son. Leolam me'ayinim bezar osher ben im nimtza libno zera ben zecharim ben nekevot afilu bat beno ad sof olam. Look for somebody. You go to the brothers. You go to his grandfather. You go to the uncles. There's always something there's always a way to search, but you start with the children. And then the Rambam closes with a very important line. You can keep searching. It could be a long lost cousin, a long distant relative up the tree. There is no such thing that as a man in Israel that does not have an heir. So there is somebody that always will get the inheritance, and the Rambam felt it important to mention that. That's it for today. We will be starting the Sefer Shemot with a lot more mitzvot that are actually found in the Parasha. We hope that you enjoyed the Sefer Bereshit, and looking forward to only everyone should live a long life at 120. If you did not yet make a will, it's very important that people do make a will and understand that we have to follow the halachot of nahalot of inheritance. Shabbat Shalom.